Hello again, everyone. In this lesson, we are going to be learning about the atmosphere around you, which is the first lesson of topic number 2. Some of the questions we're going to be learning about today in this lesson are listed over here, our guiding questions. What is the composition and structure of Earth's atmosphere? And how does energy from the sun affect Earth's atmosphere? As we get started, please take a look at the vocabulary. Remember that if you click on any of these, the definition will pop up for you. And if you'd like this e-text of the lesson read to you, remember that you've got the play button up here that will show up on every screen as you go through things. So we'll get started by going to our next page. And so we're going to start with a connect it question. There's actually 2 of them. And these can be found on page 48 in your textbook if you are using your textbook. So the first one is a question asking you, where is most of the gas in the atmosphere found? And since we're just starting the lesson, this is going to be something where you may just need to guess. Okay, so make your best guess. I've got a sentence frame or a sentence starter here for you. I think most of the gas in the atmosphere is found, and then you will need to complete that sentence. Do you think it is found maybe in the lower levels of the atmosphere? Do you think it is found, or they are found higher up in the atmosphere? So you need to make your best guess based on what you already know about the atmosphere of Earth. The second question asks you, how does the atmosphere protect life on Earth? And so you could answer this one with a sentence that starts with, Earth's atmosphere protects life by, and then you could list some ways that you think that the atmosphere protects life on Earth. If you are looking for more information on this question, the reading that follows this does give you some good ideas that you could include in your answer for that second connected question. So then we've got some reading on this slide. There's a reflection question once you have read through the first page, which is page 49 in the textbook. It says, many parts of the system that make up the atmosphere cannot be seen, such as the movement of air. Describe how you think evidence of these parts could be observed or measured. And so you could start that with a sentence, something like this. Evidence of the parts of the atmosphere could be observed and measured by. And then you would need to finish that sentence by listing some ways that you think the parts of the atmosphere that we can't see can be observed or measured by scientists that are studying the atmosphere. Once you've finished that question, we'll continue on to the next slide. If you're using your e-text, that's going to bring you to page 50. On page 50, they're going to talk about the composition of the atmosphere, and that would be what it's made of. And it gives you information about the different gases that make up our atmosphere. Once you have read this, there is a question for you to answer dealing with suspended particles. There's a photograph of a volcano erupting with this question. It asks you, during a volcanic eruption, fine particles of ash spew into the atmosphere. How might suspended particles in the atmosphere affect life? You could answer this with a sentence that starts, suspended particles in the atmosphere might affect life on Earth by, and then using what you have just read, or maybe going off of some of the things you may already know about the atmosphere or volcanic eruptions, you can finish that sentence with your ideas about how suspended particles might affect life on Earth. In this assignment, we're not going to be doing the math toolbox. Your teacher may have you do that as a separate assignment with things that you're going to download and put into Notability. The next page starts by talking about air pressure. And there's a modeling activity that goes with this. We're not going to do that in this assignment, though. So I'm going to scroll down here a little bit further. There's some reading about air pressure. and altitude are the vocabulary words that are highlighted here. And there's a summarizing question for you to answer, one of the reading checks. How does altitude affect air pressure? And so this is kind of a question that summarizes the relationship between those two. So you could answer that with a sentence similar to this one, and you'll need to figure out what you want to put on the blanks. As altitude blank, air pressure blank. So as one of them changes, so as altitude changes, that's going to affect air pressure also. So you're going to need to create a sentence there that answers that. On the next slide, we're going to learn about the different layers of the atmosphere. As we have learned, density of air does change as you go through the different layers. And so on this page, you're going to get a little bit more information about each of the four main layers of the atmosphere. They're listed here: the troposphere, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, and the thermosphere. And there's a figure here that your teacher may have you label in a separate assignment, where you are filling in the altitude or the height of these different layers of the atmosphere. But that is something we're also not going to be doing in this assignment. We're just focused on reading the e-text and answering the questions that go along with that reading. So we'll continue on to the next slide. On this page, there's some reading about energy in the atmosphere, talking about the sun and solar energy, how that affects the atmosphere. Once you have read this page, there is a question related to academic vocabulary. It asks you, how's the term stable used in the text? And so to answer this one, I don't have a sentence frame for you, but if you look back up to the paragraph with stable in it, and it is highlighted if you're using your actual textbook. Here in the e-text, it is bold and in blue text, and it's underlined. So take a look at this paragraph with stable in it to help you come up with an answer of how that's used in the text. Next, we're learning about winds and how those are a part of the atmosphere. And at the conclusion of this page, there's another reading check question. Why is the atmosphere heated unequally by the sun? And so once you have read these paragraphs preceding this question, you should be able to formulate an answer that starts something like this. The atmosphere is heated unequally by the sun because, and if you look back a couple of paragraphs, it's one of the paragraphs does start with unequal heating in the first sentence. So that would be a good place for you to look for your answer to the question asking why that happens, why the atmosphere is unequally heated by the sun. Once you are done, please make sure that you have submitted this assignment, and then it will be turned in. I believe you'll have a green checkbox up in the top corner. Thank you.